Aubrey stood up, did 3 more laps around the small lounge area on the bus, then plopped back down on the couch. She was coming out of her skin. It had been a week since the attack on Dave. After seeing his damaged hand, she'd confined herself to quarters, opting to remain on the bus or in her hotel room, only emerging when absolutely necessary, for sound checks, hair and makeup, and, of course, the concerts. During those excursions, she painted on the happiest of faces, kind beyond belief to everyone she saw. So far, the attacks had been perpetrated on people the stalker thought had hurt or angered her. From this point on, no one was hurting her. No one was pissing her off. Period. Her newly revealed sunny personality wasn't the only thing to change. Fergus had joined her in her self-imposed confinement, leaving his post by the door of the bus and moving into the lounge area with her. Unlike her, he didn't suffer from boredom. He was tapping away on his laptop, something he'd been doing nearly every waking hour since the last attack. He was going over the personnel files on the crew members again. As far as she could tell, he'd done the same thing at least 3 times already, tugging on threads, compiling lists of suspects, running extended background checks, calling previous references listed. All that work, and he'd come up with nothing.
"Do you know these men?"
Aubrey stood up and crossed the bus, sitting next to Fergus at the table to look at his computer screen. They'd played this game countless times in the past week, and each time her answer had been the same. Glancing at the faces of the 3 men before her, she knew this inquisition was going to end in frustration as well. She shook her head. What do these 3 have in common? That was Fergus's investigation practice. He'd come up with a list of commonalities, things that could point them toward the guilty party. Then he'd research each one until he had a list of suspects. So far, he had a list of crew members who'd traveled with the Sweet Flames when they were on tour, who'd been members of her fan club at some point in their lives, and those who'd been connected to the TV show somehow.
"These 3 were all hired between the time you joined the tour and when the first attack occurred."
Her eyebrows lifted. This was an interesting approach. She looked at the faces longer, read the names. Eric Rogerson, 27, Tom Brookshire, 38, and Bert Cranshaw, 56. According to his notes, Eric was one of the pyrotechnicians who had worked with Dave. She thought he might be the one who stuttered, but wasn't sure. Tom was in charge of the merchandising, and Bert was a truck driver.
"Have you spoken to any of them?"
Fergus asked. She nodded, then shrugged. Probably. He rubbed his forehead wearily. She'd spent her life surrounded by a revolving door of cast and crew members, on the set of Sweet Flames and on her concert tours. As such, she'd stopped looking, stopped trying to put names to faces. She'd lived behind a one-way mirror for 26 years, everyone on one side, perfectly capable of seeing her, while she was trapped on the other side, staring only at herself. "I'm sorry," she said, which was how all of these conversations ended. Then he'd go back to reading the files, and she was running out of things to do. Her nails were filed to perfection. She found it impossible to concentrate on her songwriting, and the bus had been cleaned to within an inch of its life. She walked to the kitchenette and eyed the unopened bottle of red wine. She'd been making a conscious effort to drink less. She left the bottle untouched and drifted to the couch, dropping down onto her back dramatically. Not that Fergus noticed. She needed a distraction. There were still 2 hours to kill before she had to head over to the stage to run through sound checks. "Truth or dare," she said. Fergus glanced up, frowning when he realized she was serious.
"Aubrey, I really don't—"
"Truth or dare," she persisted, sitting up. He glanced at the laptop once, then said,
"Truth."